If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, you already know what this is. It's a Thursday video, meaning it's in case you missed it, which is the weekly segment we do on this channel. So let's get right into it. The Pistons won back-to-back games for the first time since the first week of the season, so congrats to them, but as soon as they figure out the supporting cast and how to mesh play styles, the big three of Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren is going to be a force. What a week for Denny Avdija. Oh my goodness. He was cooking all week, but capped the week off with 43 points and 15 rebounds. He averaged 28.3 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 3.8 assists this week. He is most likely going to get forced into NBA testing because he was in fact on a different planet this week. Y'all know the only thing worth talking about with the Spurs is Wemby, and I'm just going to shut down any narrative that Chet is better because Chet is nowhere near him. I say that as someone who was a big Wemby hater. 27 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, and 10 blocks in one game, also in 29 minutes played. Stop it. Chet would not be doing the same thing if these two switched places. It's just simple facts. I was so happy to see Ashton Higgins on the Blazers, as he was a Kentucky player that I felt deserved to be in the NBA, as he has a high IQ, he is an elite defensive guard, and he was the floor general of a team that could have won the national championship before the COVID shutdown. It was very nice to see Ashton Higgins finally in the NBA. You probably missed it because it's the Hornets, but ever since the trade, with the exception of one game, the Hornets have looked great. I guess Grant Williams, Trey Mann, and Seth Curry have that big of an impact. I mean, Grant Williams looks like he is playing at Tennessee again. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Gigi Jackson got awarded a 4-year contract from the Grizzlies this week. Congrats to Gigi. That same day, he dropped 27-9 on the Bulls. Then he got suspended for a team violation. Really can't make that up. He was able to come back and drop 20-9 in a winning effort, though. Future MVP of the league, if you ask me. The Raptors had a very uninteresting week this week, but Scotty Barnes had a triple-double, so I guess that was interesting. He also went off against the Pacers, probably trying to show Siakam what he's missing, like how you try and impress your ex after they left you. The thing I loved most about the Nets week came last Thursday, as Ben Simmons got into a heated altercation on the court with Jared Allen, so in case you missed it, here's the footage. The Rockets beat the Raptors by 29 points last week. This week, they lost by 3. They scored 139 points against them last week and 104 this week. If you are still wondering how bad the Rockets are on the road, that's all you need to know. But in other news, against the Hawks, Jalen Green had a 26-point, 14-rebound, and 10-assist triple-double. He also had a poster dunk that made me jump out of my seat when I saw it. Jalen Green has really locked in lately and is showing what many expected he could do in the NBA. Looking back on it and thinking about it more, I am actually proud of the Hawks for holding on to DeJounte, because all the packages for him were awful and didn't even come close to matching his value as a player. The Hawks will probably have to trade him or trade this offseason though. But just because I'm proud of the Hawks, it does not excuse them from the fact they got smoked by the Hornets. What happened? The Bulls had way too many valuable assets on their down bad roster to not make a trade deadline move, and unsurprisingly, they did nothing, which is very disappointing, and that is why they're getting a little bit of a shun this week, even though they looked amazing against the Hawks, especially Ayo, who had 29 points and 7 assists in the win. The Jazz were cooking for a while, but they have snapped back into reality, and it really shows. The Warriors did not make a trade at this year's deadline. I strongly feel that that was a mistake. However, they have looked a lot better of late, and if they start coming together, they can make it to the second round if they make it in. They could also still miss the playoffs. Time will tell. The game against my Suns was crazy, though. Nurkic and Draymond both going at it. Steph Curry hitting the game winner. If we get a Warriors-Suns playoff series, I would be very hyped. The Lakers made no moves at the deadline, and the same day the deadline ended, they lost to the Nuggets, who have owned them the past 2 years now. You really cannot make that up. But I know Lakers fans want me to talk about the Pelicans game, where every player for LA was cooking. 30 from D'Lo, 21 points and 14 assists from LeBron. Rui had 21, Austin Reeves had 27, and AD had 20. This is how the Lakers look in the postseason. There is really no reason they shouldn't be able to compete with anyone. Unfortunately, their best defensive player, Jared Vanderbilt, may be out for the season. Hold up, let me rephrase that. Their best perimeter defensive player. Sorry, AD is obviously the best defender on this team. But anyways, Vanderbilt's out for the season, most likely. Massive blow. And in case you missed it, Rui Hachimura dropped 36 in Utah. The Pacers went 2-2 this week with 2 embarrassing losses, but they redeemed themselves against the Raptors Wednesday night with a 2-point road win. I really want to see how good this team will be when they are fully healthy because they have not been healthy since the Siakam trade, which is unfortunate. The 76ers signed Kyle Lowry this week, which was a good pickup, but I was more surprised about the fact that Buddy Hield and Kelly Oubre were thriving in bigger roles. Buddy Hield also has been averaging 7.5 assists a game as a 76er, which was not something I was expecting to see. Just when the Heat start to gain a rhythm, they get hit with the injury bug. I mean, last year this happened too, but still very unfortunate to see. However, Heat players are starting to pick it up and take bigger roles offensively, which means one thing and one thing only. The playoffs are around the corner. Franz Wagner has locked in basically all week as he started this week with 34, 7, and 7 against the Spurs and then had 36 and 5 against the Bulls. He is very, very underrated, and when he's been healthy, he has honestly been a 1B to Paolo, as he sometimes puts up way better stats. Paolo did put up 36, 7, and 5 against the Knicks, though, on 15 of 20 shooting, so I'm not going to imply the fact Franz is better at all. Just trying to say how good Franz is as a second option. Someone please explain to me why the Kings got so many roller coaster players on this team. You know it's bad when you play the defensively challenged Suns and can't score. Monk had 22 and 6 off the bench. Sabonis had 35 points, 18 rebounds, and 12 assists. And Fox had 49 and 6. Yet, they still lost. Kings have a huge problem and are going to do a lot more losing than winning down the stretch if they can't figure it out and figure out how to be consistent. OG Anunoby will be out for a minimum of 3 weeks as he undergoes elbow surgery. And week 1 was horrible as they went 0-4 with an asterisk next to the Rockets game, but this week was not ideal for the Knicks at all. Let's shout out Precious Achiuwa, who unfortunately for him might be one of Tom Thibodeau's favorite players as he has been cooking, but he's also been playing 40 plus minutes in basically every game. In case you missed it, AJ Green had a legacy game for the Bucks Thursday, but the only reason that happened was because the Bucks had a JV team playing. But the Bucks impressed against the Nuggets as they ran them out the gym, as Giannis had 36, 18, and 5 with 5 stocks. Best player in the NBA, just not the MVP. However, when you give up a career game to Nikola Jovic, kind of takes away anything positive that happened to you this week. In case you missed it, Brandon Ingram was complaining about not making the All-Star game, and my immediate response to that is that bro is so inconsistent and he hasn't done anything this year to justify having him over the players that made it. So he can complain all he wants about not making it, but when it comes down to it, All-Stars are consistent and have All-Star performances nightly, and they can impact the game even when they aren't scoring. And you're not even more deserving than Zion if we're being 100, so that really kind of drove me nuts. My Suns have looked really good of late, but we are still struggling during certain points of games because we become unorganized due to the fact that we don't have a true point guard, and Kyle Lowry is no longer an option, so I'm very sad and very worried about my Suns. We also saw Devin Booker get ejected in the first quarter of a game against the Pistons, and I hope he gets all that out of his system because I'm not trying to watch that all postseason. Bradley Beal avoided significant injury as he unsurprisingly got hurt again, and it is sad to see because I feel his career will be defined by his health. I love the Cavs, but they have flashes of being very suspect, and I have no confidence in them come postseason time because they have so many vulnerabilities. I am rooting for them. I love what they have been doing, but they are very suspect. Also, Donovan Mitchell has had to carry even more since Mobley and Garland have returned, so make that make sense. We all know the Dallas Mavericks were big-time winners at this year's trade deadline, and because of that, many people are starting to overrate them. However, there are some people underrating them, so I will give y'all my take on them today. PJ Washington trade, not good, in my personal opinion. You looked at the Mavericks before the trade deadline, and you would say they need defense and size. PJ Washington, I guess, is size, but he is a cone on defense. So he doesn't really move the needle for me at all. However, Daniel Gafford, he is the reason why the Mavericks are contenders. What have the Mavericks needed the past 3 seasons? An athletic center that can catch lobs and do dirty work on offense, while on defense, block shots and be a huge rebounder. The Mavericks just got a guy that checks every single thing in that box. He takes this team from a very good team to a contender because he is going to be the perfect starting center here. We have also seen what Luka can do in the postseason, and now he has Kyrie, who has literally been a top 3 shooting guard in the NBA of late. And then you factor in all the other offensive weapons they have, not to mention, in my personal opinion, Luka is the MVP of the season, and I won't change my mind on that. So, given all that information, I believe the Dallas Mavericks are becoming very underrated because people feel that they are overrated, which they are not. All the hype around this team is for real. They will win the Western Conference this year. only team that I look at right now that can actually beat them is the Denver Nuggets. All right. The Clippers, Luka owns the Clippers, and now he has Kyrie. Timberwolves, Luka's going to exploit Rudy Gobert. He's going to exploit Karl Anthony Towns. He's going to exploit anyone that's a negative perimeter defender. The Suns, he owns my Suns, unfortunately. He owns every other team in the league right now, other than the Nuggets. That would be a very interesting series. But if the Mavericks make it in, there's no stopping this team in a 7-game series. There really isn't. Unless you're the Boston Celtics, you should be worried about the Dallas Mavericks. And that is why I'm predicting them to win the Western Conference and potentially win the championship. I don't know why, but Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. always activate some type of takeover when they play the Lakers because they each had amazing games Thursday in LA. But after that game, they got smacked twice, once by the Kings and then against the Bucks. And then they lost to the Kings again to end their week. Not a great week at all for Denver. I don't have anything new to say about the Thunder, but if you are still doubting J-Dub being a future All-Star, just look at the game against the Kings this week, as he had 32 points, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds. And then look at the game against the Magic, where he had 33. Second year in the league doing this, just think about that. The Clippers got embarrassed by the Timberwolves this week, and it immediately reminded me of the history of the players as well as the franchise in the postseason. Historically, the Clippers choke. Historically, James Harden can be awful. We do know about Pandemic P, as much as I hate to hear that. And we can't forget Kawhi is always due for an injury at the worst times possible. I am not praying on their downfall, but I can see it coming due to the history of this team. The Timberwolves had been struggling of late, but after this week, winning on the road in Milwaukee and on the road against the Clippers, Timberwolves are back and look like a force to be reckoned with. But they're not number one, because the Boston Celtics got to be number one. Is Jaylen Brown really the second best player on the Celtics anymore? I've been debating that in my head because Porzingis has been way more valuable to the team as games he misses, they normally lose, and his defensive impact as a 7-3 shot blocker that can go out and score 30 a night kind of needs to be looked at more. He has also been way more consistent than Brown. So let me know who the second best player on the Celtics is, because I was thinking about this a lot this week. And with that, we conclude the final episode of In Case You Missed It before the All-Star break, because the All-Star break's this week. Hopefully it's not boring like it's been the past few years. Not holding my breath for the dunk contest, but we'll see. 98% of y'all are not subscribed that are watching these videos. So if y'all enjoyed this, as they come out every Thursday, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss next week's episode. Y'all have a good one. Bye.